Welcome to The Notice, a podcast from OTAVA with host TJ Howski and Melissa Locke.
Welcome to episode 6 of The Notice.
Mo, we did it. Half a dozen.
Can't believe it.
Half a dozen. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I look forward to seeing you next week in Denver when we're all in person doing some on-site work. I think that's going to be a good time.
I'm excited. Like I always say, like people in 3D are a lot cooler.
That's right.
Than people in 2D. So next week will be it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Me too. So what have you been up to?
Let's see, still on the road, right? This week kind of nice though. So last week was, part in Ann Arbor and, part back home. And this week in preparation for travel next week, I get to have a full week home. So it kind of feels weird not being in an airport.
Yeah.
but it's nice to be home. How about you?
Yeah, good to be home. Looking forward to next week. Had several coaching sessions last week with the Clifton Strengths and helping several of our employees write their individual development plans it's a 5-year plan, but we're really focusing on, what we're going to do next year and setting some SMART goals. So that's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know coaching is your burning passion. So I love it. And I get it. I love it too, right? People and investing in people is what life's all about.
That's right.
So it's awesome. But all right, well, so today we're kind of stoked. Today's a little bit more casual. We structured it in our season to just have an opportunity to unplug a little bit from the normal cadence and talk a little bit more about internal things.
That's right.
In this case, culture. So I know that we're really excited. This is something that we could talk forever on, but how culture, feeds into the business and how you develop a healthy business over time and what that means. And so we get to talk about that today, which I think is really cool.
Yes. I'm excited. I can always talk about culture and, it can really make or break a work experience. The small, consistent, everyday activities really do matter. We spend more work awake hours with our work colleagues than we do our loved ones. And so work culture really does matter, and how we treat each other and how we work through the day and how we make decisions, how we have opportunities to learn. I mean, all those things do add, the little things do matter.
Yeah, it does. Right. I think it's funny how I do believe everybody goes through the season. It's just my belief, obviously only my opinion, but in your younger years of your career, it is that you're cultivated in this. You get in, you compartmentalize work from personal, you grow and go as fast as you can through a business. Everybody's taught to, you should want more, achieve more, do more. And then it's after you get through it and make some mistakes or learn forward, right, along the way, that you realize while you're doing all those things, you're missing out on what makes the difference, which is the relationships, the people, and understanding how to interact, and that's all feeding into culture. And so I think it's really fun that we get to talk about that today, because that's the aha moment. Hopefully some people get it younger now than I did, because it's such a value, but that's where the wealth is in the relationships.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So before we dig into one of our favorite topics, we get to do shout outs.
Yes.
And so shout outs are fun. What's really cool is we've had people now reaching out to us like, hey, thanks for shouting out. I watched. It was really neat. So it's actually fun to see that people are getting what we're intending, which is, giving props to those that make the business successful, which is people and their hard work.
Yep.
And so who would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So Todd Schurz is the former CEO of Schurz, the parent company of OTAVA. And he put me in a position this past week that really got me out of my comfort zone, which isn't really that hard to do, being, an introvert. But, learning and growing isn't comfortable. So even though it initially my whole being wants to say no, I say yes, because I know that's where you grow. And so he put me in a meeting with some HR leaders from a company that he works with. And felt like I was kind of on the hot seat. They were asking questions about how we engage our managers and how we do our training and how do we measure, and what do we do with what we measure. And I mean, it was a good conversation, but I was, of course, very uncomfortable. So I just wanted to give a shout out for Todd, who gave me that opportunity to answer the questions, to think about things a little bit differently, and helping me grow and sweat.
And sweat. And I can't imagine that that's the first time and only time Todd's ever stretched you.
It was good. It's good to be stretched. It's good to be pushed a little bit.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Great leaders understand that it's about stretching. Like, people are like rubber bands, right? We're only as useful as we can be stretched. And so I think that's awesome. Congratulations. It was fun to hear about it too. So I love it. Let's see. My shout out goes to Sharanya. So I'm going to shout out Sharanya. Sharanya is our senior manager over finance, but I'm going to specifically shout out why. So Sharanya, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, thank you. We appreciate you. So, every business has strategic planning seasons, and there is a large body of work that occurs during that season, and there's a lot of data, right? There's data that you look at in arrears in your performance. There's data that you look at in your future forecasting, but it's the gathering of the data that is pretty tedious, having to chase down, all of those things that make together for a comprehensive strategic plan. And Sharanya does it and doesn't complain. Right. Or at least complain publicly. But she pulls it together. She's always properly prepared. She challenges people, and she just knocks it out of the park. And so for the 3.5 years that I've been here as a critical resource in the business for what we do, Sharanya just does it above and beyond. I think she does a fantastic job. So excited to shout her out for what she does. And there's many people that contribute to that. So if your name's not being mentioned, you're not being recognized. We shout out for a person. So thank you, Sharanya, in this week. We appreciate you.
Yes, I love working with her. She is so brilliant and humble.
Agreed. Yeah. 100%. She's awesome. Yep. So it's awesome to get to shout her out. So well done.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about OTAVA and our culture building. So we've been able to see progress in our culture because culture and our employee engagement, and we measure it year over year. And we use a survey every year. And the most important piece that we I wouldn't say most important, but the most common piece that we really zero in is our ENPS. And ENPS, Employee Net Promoter Score, that's calculated really based on one question. And so in the survey, we ask our employees on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend OTAVA as a great place to work? And we've measured this for several years now. And those who rate the question with a 9 or a 10 are promoters, or those likely to tell others that OTAVA is a great place to work. And those who rate 6 or lower are considered detractors. So you subtract the detractors from the promoters, and that's where you get this net promoter score. And so the scale can range from negative 100 to positive 100. And really anything on the positive side means you have more promoters than detractors, which is the goal. So not only has OTAVA seen growth in the ENPS from the lowest was positive 8 to this past survey with a positive 43, which is huge growth. We've also seen a decrease in the percentage of detractors from 29% to 4%, which is amazing. And so this is significant improvement, and it's really been a result of our focus on values and culture and developing our employees and having a little fun along the way and serving each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fun to see, like it's fun to experience. And what's interesting is I was talking to some friends. So I have friends that are, like-minded people attract, and they're all passionate about big leadership. What I mean by big leadership is big influence, leaving an impact. I think the right way to say it is leave something better than the way that you found it. Right. And so in my current role, right, you make decisions that affect everybody simultaneously. It doesn't just affect one person. And what's interesting is that as people, we tend to focus on negative, not positive. right? So if you were to spend a lot of time talking to people about, have you ever worked in a negative culture? Oh my gosh. They come out of the woodworks, they're like, yes, and let me tell you why it was negative and all of the things.
So true.
But equally interesting is you spend time with people and you say, hey, like, what is a positive culture like? And most people can't describe it, like right out of the gate, because you tend to focus on the negative, right? And what's been interesting working here and getting to participate amongst other great leaders to turn culture around is how it takes time. That's the nugget.
Yes.
It is not instantaneous. The commitment to it and the perspective of moving from a negative to a positive mindset and what you want for outcomes, that can be instantaneous.
Yeah.
But the course of change, it takes time. It's
That's
a
right.
year-over-year focus. It's an intentional investment. It isn't something that gets better just because you want it to. You have to marry the decisions with action, which is why we say do a decision,
Yes.
right? And so it's really fun to now see how folks are more aware of the culture difference. We've had people tell us, and I think this is one of the best compliments, that, you know, it's a competitive market that we're in and an industry, right, overall. And we have people all the time get recruited and they evaluate opportunities and they feel safe enough to tell us about their recruitment, which is great. But we've had so many people tell us they chose to stay, and not necessarily that, like, well, you know, it's better money, because money's just one element.
That's right.
I've stayed because I really appreciate how different this culture is, and I don't know that I'm going to get that there, and I love what I'm a part of. So I think that says a lot about what we're doing and you know, how we measure that. So
yes, it's been good, also rewarding for me when I get to share that information during an interview or an employee's first few days, and getting to share how we treat people, what our focus is, what our values are, how those show up, our rock band mentality that we have with how we serve each other. Employees get energized by that. And I will tell you that is, I would say it's the number one question I'm asked during interviews now. You know, money and benefits are part of it, and, you know, work-life balance, but more people are asking about the culture, and that is their primary focus. So I'm like, what is encouraging you, you know, to apply here? Why are you leaving? I am just looking for a great culture where I can learn and grow and be a part of something awesome. And that's why I'm here interviewing with you today. And that speaks volumes, because that means someone told them about us, they've learned about us. And so all these years, it's just kind of compounding and snowballing in the positive effects of this investment in our culture.
Yeah, amen. I couldn't agree. I think it's important to talk about too, especially if you're somebody that watches us and, you know, genuinely, maybe you're like, well, how does this apply to me? And that was the goal, right, of the notice in general, was whether it's internal or external, humanize the firm, connect it to thought leadership in different areas in ways of, like, what are you connected to that can add value? I think that's more important than just speeds and feeds, though we'll talk about that. There's a lot of things that go into a company and what value they bring to others. But there's something really important to call out, which is, if you look at the data points, culture has improved since 2020 till present, at a time where the whole world went from a massive shift of what was central employment, like physically present, people in the building, to, like everybody, we had to come up with a new strategy of how to do a distributed workforce. Yep. A percentage of them are 100% work from home. We have, by nature of our business, an around the sun, you know, services coverage. And so we have international, we have domestic resources. All of those real headwinds that come into just operating a business exist for OTAVA. Yep. And so it's been a learning experience. It isn't like we had a plan that said on day one, you know, if a pandemic hits, this is what we're going to do, right? That was a real market headwind. That was a real global impact. Yep. And we said, oh my gosh, like everybody, how are we going to respond? And so kudos to all the leadership that's gone into that and all the people that have participated, because it isn't just the numbers trended up. They're continually growing, and you see it in other areas, but it's also in the conditions in which it was operated. And I think that says a lot about the leadership that is participating in developing the culture, because one person can wreck a culture. Yes, I firmly believe
absolutely.
That. Genuinely. You got to pull the weeds from the garden in order to keep it healthy. But equally, one person can start a new focus on culture and then marrying that with the right leadership team and permeating that through the organization, you can create a massive change. And I think that's what we're seeing is the law of reaping and sowing, over time with a commitment and a focus on people first, which is our greatest focus. And then the rest, in my opinion, it falls into place. So,
yeah. And we've talked about this a few times. And I think the snowball effect kind of happens when your culture starts to shift and the outliers, those those few disruptors who just don't quite, buy into what we're doing, they stick out a lot more vibrantly, and you can easily identify them and make some changes where needed, if needed, or address it. And that has helped us, I think, progress forward a little bit faster too.
Yeah, I think so too. It's been fun to see. And again, the data points, they give you things to reflect on. They don't tell the whole story, but they can give you the trend, and they can see that are the things that we're doing working, and then how could we do better? And I guess the last thing that I think is important for us to say, because we've talked about this privately, we've shared this certainly with leaders, sent out a communication this year before the engagement campaign, and that is, some people say they're committed to culture, but they don't actually ever really do anything that demonstrates that commitment. And what I appreciate about what we've been able to do is we seek the engagement, we get the feedback, including open-ended questions. We sit down and review those, anonymous submissions, but relative or relevant feedback. And we really challenge ourselves like, hey, how accurate is this? And what could we do better? Like, what's our ownership in this, that this person feels this way? Positive or negative, right? You got to take both, because there's always room for improvement. And I think that that's gone a long way too, is that when people see that you're genuinely committed to, we're not just checking the box. This is something that we measure against our business health and how we're doing. It goes a long way.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And we do take it seriously across, OTAVA does the survey, every company under SURES does the survey, and it's timed at this time of year specifically because we're going into strategic planning. So what are those tweaks and adjustments and budget changes we need to make to address what showed up in the survey?
That's right.
It's important.
It's awesome.
So TJ, I want you to tell us how you've benefited from development opportunities and grown your career here at OTAVA. It's been quite a remarkable journey for you, and I think it's worth sharing. Tell us about it.
Sure. I mean, we joke, right? from utility to service all the way through, right? So, I think the best way to tell the story, there's an ongoing joke still to this day from folks like Ben Bishop and others when I joined the organization back in 2020, that I was an undercover boss. like that show that I joined to really find out what was going on before I would get moved into leadership roles, right? But I got to tell you, I've had a blast. So I joined the organization in 2023. I was part of the technical team on... Oh, sorry, 2020. See, the math. It's 2023 now. We won't even cut that out. We want you to see that anybody can do this, right? And so you rewind the clock to 2020, or the year that shall remain nameless, and I joined the organization in the network team, so technical, and started to work with resources focused on that section of our products and technology and our customers, and it was a lot of fun. And I miss it. In some ways, I miss it because it was such a good time hanging out with folks that are in that season of their career, incredibly passionate about something that we share in common. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also extremely educational because not only on the technical side did I learn, but I got really inspired by the things I'm passionate about in leadership and mentoring, coaching, and helping other folks, and then how to do that in business. I saw, hey, there's an opportunity here to serve, that I could take the talents and skills that I'd been gifted with and put them to a greater level of use, and as the teams would joke, a much better use than my current technical aptitude, it seems, and move into different roles. And so I moved from the networking up in through our support operations group and doing services, service delivery, and leadership over those groups, and then moved up again into the executive level leadership, really helping with different areas: product, technology, engineering, security, operations, and had a really great blessing to work through the business and learn and contribute to different areas before ultimately moving into really this leadership position, which I think people confuse what chief executive officer means. Some days it's an equipping officer, some days it's encouragement, some days it's empowerment, but at the end of the day, it's a service role. And, your job is to steward the business, both in, its growth, right? Obviously you're a for-profit business, but more importantly, I think your job is to steward the people through that business to achieve that unified outcome that you want. So that's been my journey. And I can tell you that what has kept me motivated and wanting to do more at OTAVA year over year over year, it is the culture. Like, it is the people, and when I say OTAVA, I mean Schurz. Like, to your point earlier, to have had an opportunity to spend some time before Todd retired, deservedly so, but to get to spend a little bit of time with him, or Jesse, our chief financial officer, or Chris Stottel, or Scott Schurz, or John Reardon now, our chief executive officer. And certainly I can't tell you how many times, if you listen, like, I feel like I spend a lot of time on Mo's couch in therapy of like, what should I do as a leader to continue to grow and stretch? And she coaches me through. She's fantastic at that. That's why I like it, and or love it is the right word choice. But it's been a lot of fun here, and hopefully we'll get to continue to enjoy the ride for a foreseeable future for some time to come. So
yeah, it's really a remarkable story, and you earned it.
I appreciate that. It's a team effort. So I'm thankful for the opportunity, but anything that we've achieved, we genuinely have achieved with a lot of people that have participated. And so, and that's a special thanks to you as well. There's been a ton of coaching that you have given me that you continue to give. And I think that's a big piece to shout out for folks if you're looking at what's the most effective way to develop culture quickly. And that is to be coachable.
That's true.
To be coachable, to be teachable, to be open to feedback, to not take offense, and to understand the heart condition of the person giving you that message. Is, do they want, hopefully you've built that culture that they want better for you. And so they're willing to give you that feedback so that you can grow, and equally you give that same. And I know that that's what's really contributed to my success is getting coaching. And sometimes you don't even want what you're getting, but you're like, I need it. So just like keep it coming.
Well, I think that goes back, we feel like a broken record, but it does all start with relationship. You are not open to coaching from someone if you haven't developed a relationship with them and 100%. Understand that heart that it's coming from. So
100%. Yep. It's good stuff.
Now, for this episode's one story in 1 minute.
All right. So this is my favorite time. It is 60 seconds or less. This is the story, but I know you got your timer over there, and I'm not going to say that last time your 1 minute was 2.5 minutes and that I beat you because you're not competitive, but all that being said, 60 seconds. I've got my timer because, trust issues. Just kidding. All right. So Here we go. You got your story, 60 seconds or less. Go.
Okay. Let me start mine too. Guys, trust. So it's Cybersecurity Awareness Week or month. So I'm going to share a story. And this is an example of something that literally happened to me this week. So I received a text from PayPal with a verification code. So I'm like, oh, great. Someone's trying to get into my account, right? But following that, I got a phone call from PayPal security. They're like, hey, we noticed there was some activity on your account, and I need you to give me that verification code that I just sent to you. Mm-hmm. So for about half a second, I was like, oh, yeah. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. So this is just a warning to everyone. Be careful. Stop and think. Don't do it like impulsive. Just stop and think about it, and never share a verification code that you didn't ask for.
Good stuff.
Champ. I'm the champ.
53 seconds.
I'm not competitive at all.
No, not at all. Yeah. I can only imagine like what board games are like. Well, we're gonna have to try that together. I might have it. It's probably like a full contact sport in your house.
Have you ever played Spoons? That is a contact game. Full contact game for sure. There have been injuries.
I dig it. I can't wait. Workman's Comp expanded. Here we go. I dig it. You're right, though.
Right.
It's important to be aware of, especially right now. It's sophisticated attacks, whole new game. So it's important to be aware, be cautious, be extra cautious, overly concerned, paranoid a little bit. It won't hurt you in this area. So
yeah, and especially going into the holiday season, more shopping, more online. I mean, they're out to get you. So just be extra vigilant.
For sure.
Well, that's a wrap for our 6th podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And please like, share, subscribe. And if you have topics you'd like for us to tackle, send them our way. We've just shared today that we will take the uncomfortable. We'll get out of our comfort zone and talk about something a little bit. So send it our way. And then TJ, what do we have coming up on the next podcast?
Man, I'm so stoked. So obviously there's some lead time, right? When we're inviting people to participate, we have calendars and things that we're doing, and some of that's coming around now. So next week, we get to introduce from our On the Road campaign, one of our strategic partners on the technology side is the CEO of a company called ComDivision, Mr. Yves Sanford. And I'm really excited for you to get to hear from him. Incredible thought leadership. He has been in cloud and advanced technologies for over 30 years. I always like to joke and say he's probably forgotten more about cloud and emerging technologies than most people are ever going to learn. He is a true and recognized thought leader, he and his firm and his team. So really excited to spend time with him. So if you are geared up to wanting to learn more on the technical side and more where the industry and the trends are going, this is definitely an episode that you don't want to miss. And so come on and hang out. We're excited to introduce you to ComDivision.
Awesome. Well, that sounds amazing. I can't wait.
I'm stoked. All right. It's that time. Let's see if
what do we say?
Do it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. We can't do it.
Do a decision.
One of these days, this whole delay thing is going to allow us to do it at the same time. So do a decision. Okay. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Bye, guys.